I'm here, front of the AVS and the new engineering buildings of the University of Michigan-Dearborn. We were supposed to meet here to run the Dearborn Artificial Intelligence Symposium, but the reality now is this. However, don't get disappointed. Actually, the pandemic brings a lot of advantages, and we are here to help you turning adversity into an advantage by exposing you and your company to the latest advances in artificial intelligence and bringing you as a thinking partner via a high-quality remote event from November 30th until December 4th. Artificial intelligence has advanced tremendously and today promises personalized healthcare, enhanced national security, and improved transportation, just to name a few benefits. The center will enable your company to compete successfully and to win. We have four main focuses during these days: enabling AI in the edge, ethics of AI, the state of AI in Michigan, and also how AI can serve automotive industry. We will have keynote speakers, industry executives panel, industry case studies, tutorials, tool demos, and much, much more. Here are the top 3 reasons why you should join us. Bring your best thinking and experiences, and this virtually. Think about the opportunities to join our Artificial Dearborn AI Symposium to virtually meet and hear from the calibers of movers and shakers that make things really happen in the AI world based on their visions. You will meet virtually the senior executives, CTUs, and executive director of the global corporations. You will meet decisions makers from universities and labs. You will see the world-class core and applied AI researchers and students. Think about the opportunities to access this diverse thinking beyond just programming language, but on how to create a whole pipeline to deal with data cleaning, fairness, bias, privacy, explainability, and how to enable managing complex AI algorithms in limited environments. It will save your companies R&D money and to enable you and improve your company's bottom line. You can even make yourself ready to adopt this latest AI technologies. Number 2, when you come here, you will be truly validating these information ideas. This is a truly two-way learning. You see, you can read on your own our research online. You can analyze online as much as you want, but you cannot push it back. You cannot challenge it. You cannot make it better. When you come here virtually, bring your best thinking. You will truly influence the direction which you are going as a center. Number 3, by joining our Dearborn AI Symposium, you will actually help and validate the feasibility of the research center. You can learn and analyze the hard data. You can look at the best practices. You can see for yourself how the university-industry collaboration truly produce excellent results, excellent research quality that has a lot of demands and value for the industry. We truly appreciate you, and we are looking forward to serve you during the Dearborn Artificial Intelligence Symposium with these benefits and much, much more. Please register online at dare.umdearborn.edu/symposium. Think big, start small, and scale fast. Thank you. Thank you for being here with us. We are so glad that you are bringing your best thinking into this meeting. Putting this event together is truly a team effort, and you will not see many of them as they are behind the scene, but their contributions was really essential. I'm so grateful to my outstanding colleagues at the Dare Leadership Circle. You are my wonderful thinking partners, and this event will never happen without your contributions. We are very grateful to the communications, industry engagement, and research management and administration teams at the University of Michigan-Dearborn. Thank you for your tremendous help despite the very challenging time of the pandemic. And last but not least, I wanted to acknowledge the greatest support from our university administrators. You believed in us and our vision even before that we have anything to show. Are you ready to start? Okay, let's go! With great sorrow that we start our symposium with this memory session for Professor Bill Groski. We lost Bill 2 weeks ago on November 13th. Bill Groski was supposed to be with us here today in this symposium as one of the chairs, and he helped us tremendously in the organization of this event and the Dare Center in general. He joined our campus in 2001, where he served as a department chair of the Computer and Information Science Department for 16 years between 2001 and 2017. Bill was one of the most productive scientists working on NLP, AI, ML, databases, multimedia, and so on. We lost not only a leader in our research field, but also a true friend who cared a lot about his friends. Only a couple of days before he passed away, he was still showing the same dedication to our students, and he called me about issues in our online teaching tool. I asked Bill if he can postpone these issues and solving them and taking a rest, but he still wanted to fix them for his students. It was the last lessons from Bill to me. One of the best lessons that I learned from Bill was that building people is much more important than building tools. Those people will continue transmitting his values and knowledge to the next generation. Great leaders never die. In memory and out of respect for Bill Groski, we are working to create an AI scholarship in his name. We express our sincere condolences to Bill's family, friends, and colleagues for the great loss. We have lost an accomplished leader and friend, and we desire to build upon the great contributions Bill has made throughout his distinguished career.
Now time to go big or go home, but always go blue.
It gives me great joy to introduce our first speaker. When I met him last January in a breakfast at his residence, he provided me a lot of insights on how a center can serve our campus, the local community, industry, and society. For the world outside, he's the Chancellor of the University of Michigan-Dearborn, but for me, he is a great inspiration to target excellence in whatever we do. Let us welcome our Chancellor, leader, and our friend, Domenico Groski. Domenico, thank you very much for proposing and leading the current exciting Dearborn strategic planning effort. I was personally very influenced by your inauguration speech on April 2019 that motivated many of us to actually establish the Dearborn AI Research Center. Could you please tell us more about the role and importance of artificial intelligence in the current strategic planning of the University of Michigan-Dearborn that you are leading, including urban future and smart cities?
Well, thank you, Marwan. And first, I want to say that I am delighted that you are part of our faculty and that we have such talented individuals such as yourself that are working on these important problems. And I want to thank you for assembling this conference, because it's an important conference and it has major ramifications, not just for us, but for technology and society in general. As you know, we've embarked on a strategic planning effort, and one of the items that has come out of our strategic planning effort is to focus our efforts at Dearborn around this topic of urban futures. And urban futures is a term that is not just restricted to strictly urban, but involves any type of human settlements. And technology is going to play a role whether you are in a densely urban area or in rural areas. And sometimes you might say technology plays a bigger role in rural areas, because in those areas you need things like telemedicine, you need access to video conferencing facilities to stay in contact with people. And the role of artificial intelligence is going to play a major part of the future of human society. And what you're doing is terrific, because right here in southeastern Michigan, Ford and GM and Chrysler are looking at autonomous vehicles. They're looking at the future of what mobility is going to look like. And artificial intelligence is going to be front and center in this. And we're excited to have you working on such an important topic on our campus.
Thank you very much, Domenico. What values do you think the Dearborn Artificial Intelligence Research Center could bring to the industry, our students, state, nation, and beyond?
Well, I think one of the exciting things that you've done with our center is that you've made it very collaborative and interdisciplinary. And I think that it's pretty clear that although the future is going to be filled with a lot of problems and challenges that are going to involve technology, it's not going to be solely reliant on technology. And what you're doing in the center and involving folks from all around campus and looking at everything from the technological to the ethical issues, that's an important part of what the future of AI is going to be, especially as AI transitions into a new exciting field of artificial life, which is really going to take it in a very different direction. And when we start having living robots and AI, there's going to be a lot of things that we're going to have to think about.
Our theme to actually celebrate the first anniversary of the Dearborn AI Research Center is Think Big, Start Small, and Scale Fast. What do these words mean to you and to Dearborn?
That's an exciting motto that you have there, because you want to think big. You want to contextualize your work in the largest problems that are going to face society. And they're going to be inspirational and aspirational. But at the same time, while you're thinking big, you can't do everything at once. So you have to take things in small bites, make sure they work, do proof of concept, check everything out, and then start thinking about how you can scale that and move to a larger scale. So we want to be fast, we want to be first, but we also want to be flawless. We don't want to make mistakes. So I think that your motto of starting small but thinking big and scaling fast is very, very appropriate for this type of endeavor.
I would like to thank you so much, Domenico, for your time. It was a pleasure to have you with us and our industry guests. So thanks a lot.
Well, thank you, Marwan, and thank you for everything that you do for not just our university, but for the field in general. Thank you very much.
Now, not far from Domenico's leadership, the second speaker just joined Dearborn last year. She's bringing a lot of energy and fresh vision to many of us. When I talked to her for the first time about the Dear Center, she showed great support, not only by words, but also by actions. It gives me great pleasure to introduce our provost and friend, Susan Alba. Thank you, Susan, for being with us and sharing your time with our industry participants, students, practitioners, researchers who are really interested to artificial intelligence and its application in so many domains. So my first question to you, what made you excited to support this consortium of bringing together AI academics and practitioners here at the University of Michigan-Dearborn?
Oh, I'm excited for many reasons. I'm excited because it brings interesting people virtually to the University of Michigan-Dearborn and gives us an opportunity to strut our stuff and show you who we are and what we can do. I'm excited because I think the conversations between academics and practitioners are absolutely essential, probably don't happen often enough. And I like to think of this gathering as starting conversations that will continue in the future. And finally, I'm excited because it's pretty clear that AI is going to become just, an absolutely integral part of all our lives henceforth. And we have to, we all have to know about it. We all have to know how to use it and use it for the best purposes possible. So not only excited, I'm delighted, and I'm delighted to be here. Thank you for asking me.
Yeah, thanks. And this is related to our next question, actually. So what's your perception on the future of artificial intelligence, and how can we better prepare our students in this very important field that has really very high demand from industry in general?
Right. I would start by saying that I think preparing our students, in the field to work with industry, in industry and with industry, absolutely important. What I'm hoping though is that what will emerge out of this symposium and things moving forward is that we'll figure out a way to bring AI into the training and the understanding of all our students, whatever their field might be, that, because an understanding of AI and its potential and its uses, I think is not something that we want just, some folks to get, but should become part of our overall curriculum and built into all the disciplines. And I say this as I couldn't really tell you about the current state and future because I'm very far from an AI specialist. I'm a classical archaeologist. I work in the Mediterranean world in the Roman period and you'd think that'd be a very far away from AI, but actually I've been discovering more and more that artificial intelligence is really transforming how archaeologists can undertake many of our basic tasks. So a great example of something you wouldn't think was connected to AI, but it absolutely is, and that's something that's only going to only become more the case everywhere going forward.
Thank you again, Susan, for your time. We all know your very busy schedule. So any final words to our participants for this symposium?
just to say very much you are very welcome again. Enjoy yourselves. Come back soon.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Our third speaker in this opening session is a great friend, colleague, and mentor. When I joined Dearborn in 2013, he was a great mentor to me, to understand the culture of Dearborn, how to fit in the environment, and bring values to our industry, campus, and our students. He's now the interim dean of the College of Engineering and Computer Science and a great supporter of DARE. Please join me in welcoming my friend, and our dean, Hassan Krieger. Hassan, thank you again for being with us and our industry guest during this Dearborn Artificial Intelligence Research Symposium. One question for you is, how do you see the center ability to bring values to our students, industry, state, and society?
Well, thank you, Marwan. I think this is a great question, and I would say that when we think about DARE and we think about our educational programs at the University of Michigan-Dearborn, we think about them as an integral part of three different facets. So we have the students and their education and preparation, industry and their need, and society at large. We think about them as a continuum. As we prepare our students, we want them to be equipped with the tools they need to support their future careers and to look into supporting their employers, which is industry. We also want to conduct cutting-edge research that supports industry and solves their problems. And of course, we do fundamental research to educate our students and our researchers. And through this fundamental research, we also help society at large. One of the things that DARE brings is, in my mind, it's an organic organization. It came from the faculty. It came for people. It's not a top-down organization that was mandated, but rather that researchers who are passionate about what they do from different disciplines. And this is really a great attribute of DARE, where you have the mechanical engineer, the computer scientist, the electrical engineer, the mathematician, the business person, the computer engineer, all working together. So the algorithms developed may be relevant in one context, but now somebody from a completely different discipline can say, oh, wait a minute, I can use this in solving a problem I have, or looking at the problem from different angles. So I think the benefit, not only to industry and the community, but even the researchers and the students, is seeing this cross-disciplinary and interdisciplinary research collaboration that can bring or does bring more meaningful solutions.
Thanks a lot, Hassan, for your support and the college support to establishing the Dearborn AI Center. And I want to give you the opportunity as well to welcome our industry participants, students, practitioners to this great symposium.
Thank you, Marwan. Of course, first of all, congratulations to you and the team on putting up such a great high-quality symposium. And I would like to welcome all the participants. I wish we could have been together today to welcome you in person. The building behind me is our new facility and would have been a great place to celebrate the event. But hopefully next year we will be in the facility enjoying the great resources it offers. I wish you a wonderful symposium. I know how much effort Marwan and the team have put into it. And I look forward to hopefully both meeting you in person, but also hearing about the success of the symposium and thinking how we can further the collaboration amongst our researchers at other institutions, as well as industry and government organizations. So good luck to all and have a pleasant symposium.
Thanks a lot again, Hassan. We all know your busy schedule, so thanks for sharing time with us. Thank you. It really gives me a great honor to introduce our first speaker of this Industry Executives Welcoming Session. eBay is one of the first supporters of the DARE Center. When I visited eBay several times during the last 2 years to establish various collaborations together, he was always very welcoming and supportive to our vision of bringing research prototypes into the world outside. And he always offered us the best opportunity to test them on the largest possible scale at eBay with billions of web services call in the background of ebay.com. He's a great leader and he has a great vision to make research more impactful and enable opportunities for all of us. Please join me welcoming our first industry leaders, the Vice President of eBay, Sami Barumdan. Thank you so much, Sami, for your great support to the Dare Center and to eBay for being one of the first supporters of the Dearborn Research Center on artificial intelligence. As Vice President at eBay, leading different big initiatives related to AI infrastructure and beyond, how do you see our center bringing together AI academics and industry can serve companies like eBay and beyond?
Yeah, within eBay and my team in particular, we pay a lot of attention to academic because that's how we really validate what we're doing, especially when we talk about AI and even distributed system and other areas, even in software engineering. It's very important to, when you are on the leading edge, to make sure that you work with researcher and academic. And I lead myself within eBay research partnership with university, and that's how actually we got to know each other, I think, and we exchanged some program like what we're doing for architecture and software refactoring with the University of Michigan. Yeah.
Thanks, Sami. And how do you see the role of artificial intelligence for big companies like eBay, like targeting scalable problem with also scalable solutions?
We've been actually at eBay for the last even 10 years, I think, doing since it started doing AI, and given our scale and given the diversity of our user and our listing and our products, there is a lot of work that was enabled because of AI. And I'll go in my session later on around all the use cases. But actually, eBay, what the transformation we're doing, actually using AI everywhere. We're using it. There is not specific area, but we are using it everywhere, from operation all the way up to user experience and, of course, recommendation search and all of those areas. AI is kind of now mainstream at eBay. It's not like a added thought.
Yeah, thanks, Sami, for being with us during this welcoming session to our industry participants, students, and beyond. Anything that you want to say to welcome our participants for the Dearborn AI Symposium?
Yeah, I'm excited really to be a part of this and looking forward to it. Thank you.
Our industry executive guest now is a true leader from IBM. He was one of the first supporters of our vision to bring together here in Dearborn AI academics and practitioners. He was a key influencer to me on how we can serve engineers not only with the latest AI research outcomes and the new knowledge, but by also providing them joint hands-on training opportunities in artificial intelligence that can combine the research and industry tools. Few months after our first meeting, we organized with IBM a very successful joint hands-on workshop on AI in supply chains, and IBM became one of the first supporters of DARE. Please join me welcoming our next speaker, Ben Amaba, the Global Chief Technology Officer of IBM. Ben, I would like to thank you very much for having IBM as one of the sponsors of the Dearborn Artificial Intelligence Research Center. And also thanks to IBM for the significant contributions to the symposium. And I'm very confident that the participants will enjoy the IBM Chief Data Officer keynote and the practical case studies by the IBM leaders. So my first question to you, what are the values that you think DARE could bring to industry, especially big organizations like IBM?
Thank you, Dr. Casentini, and the value is incredible. DARE will bring us professional standards of performance excellence, honest enterprise, and the highest standards of professional conduct, especially in ethics, to place service before personal advantage and the public welfare above all other consideration. DARE will allow us to democratize data analytics, machine learning, and artificial intelligence for the common good through the content, connection, and collaboration with limitless boundaries of opportunity. DARE is fulfilling and building a network of a community of colleagues for stewardship as a collective group is going to be critical for all of us. So I really appreciate the participation and honor to contribute to the organization.
What do you think about the DARE leadership team and our ability to deliver those values to industry?
Great question. DARE leadership will bring together time, talent, and treasure, where we can openly provide cross-innovative opportunities, ideas, and people across geographical, industry, and demographic diversity. We are all looking to the leadership team to produce asset-based solutions to contribute to the body of knowledge. This will accelerate and create new processes that are continuously adapting and serving our community. We look forward to everything that you're doing, and we are honored to be participating in the Dearborn Artificial Intelligence Research Symposium.
Ben, I want to thank you very much for taking the time to be with us despite your very busy schedule. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Casentini.
Our last speaker of this opening session is the head of Sumitomo North America, where he's serving as the Senior Vice President of this Japanese giant. We are grateful to Sumitomo's support to establish their center and all the great collaborations since last year in research and AI training. Please join me in welcoming Jun Okawara, the Senior Vice President of Sumitomo. Let's give thundery round of applause to John Okawara, the Senior Vice President of Sumitomo Corporation. John, we have basically two questions for you. So the first question, and again, thanks a lot for your support to our center. And how do you see our center bringing together artificial intelligence academics and industry could actually serve companies like Sumitomo and beyond?
Okay. Thank you very much. And first of all, thank you for having me. And it's a great pleasure and honor to be one of the participants. And I'll try my best to contribute to this panel. Coming back to your question, I believe there are three major benefits for industry such as Sumitomo to collaborate with institutions like DARE. First, it will enable us to connect and find cutting-edge technology. And the second is to assess and evaluate the technology as the independent third party. And the third would be the new network opportunities that I personally consider it's priceless. I believe these are the three points that I would like to suggest at this moment.
Thank you, John. And how do you see the role of artificial intelligence for big organizations like Sumitomo to solve big problems and scalable solution?
Yes. There's kind of people who thinks this AI is a threat, but I do not believe that. And it's rather a must-have tool to create a new ecosystem with strategic partners and incubate new business models. And it's not a threat. And Sumitomo is aiming to become a digital solution trading firm. In Japanese, we call ourselves Sogo Shosha. And further, if I deep dive to your question, AI's role is to create new business model, achieving the top line new revenues. And another one is upgrading and increasing the current value of the existing core businesses. And what eventually brings that is to create and optimize, visualize, and reduce work hours for our personnels to make that time more effective and efficient to derive innovation and creation. That's our goal through AI, digital transformation.
Great. Thanks, John, for all this insight. So, and I want to give you the opportunity as well to welcome our participants from practitioners and students, and also thank you for your time. We know how busy you are. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Before that, we start our session on the Dare Center visions and goal. I want to actually introduce one of my main great mentors, Danny Deek. He's the executive director of the Pervasive Personalized Artificial Intelligence Center at UC Boulder and Oregon State University that was funded by NSF and launched recently. Danny Deek, he was actually a great mentor to me, and we had a lot of discussions about establishing a great research center. One of the best advices that I got from Danny was like, if you want to really establish a great center, forget about your goals and your own personal growth. You need to think about growing the people who are surrounding you and how best you can serve them. Please join me welcoming our speaker for this Dare Vision and Goal Center, Danny Deek, professor from UC Boulder. Danny, thank you again for being with us. I mean, we know that you are very busy and you are leading this great center, IUCRC, funded by NSF at University of Colorado Boulder and also at Oregon State University. So could you share with us, please, your experience on this kind of university consortium bringing AI academics and industry together could bring benefits to potential industry partners and to the university as well?
Yeah, right on. And thank you so much, Maroon, for inviting me and for being part of this conversation. So clearly, there's a lot of benefits, and we are just launching this PPI center, and I'm already seeing a lot of benefits. But most of the benefits that I can talk from benefits from what I've seen at other centers that allow me to be fly on the wall and attend their meetings, or I could talk from the benefits that I've already seen just in the short period of time that we had. We are just launching right now this fall, so in terms of industry benefits, industry are really excited to come together with other companies, with other members that are normally they are not seeing each other. So people from the automotive industry with people from the high tech, with people from the smart precision agriculture, for people from, like, they are not normally having these conversations. So having this as a forum for them to be thinking partners together and to learn from each other, it's a huge benefit for industry. In our meeting so far, we didn't have direct competitors. It was companies from different industries, but the way how they were able to share, how they have the same common problems, and some of the solutions are very similar, despite the fact that the domain of application is very different. So that's a huge benefit from industry. Also, what I've been hearing industry talk about our meetings and they were so excited to see our students. They were so excited to see who they can hire for internships, who they can hire for full-time positions, who can help them with their problems. So having exposure to the students and the faculty, for long-term relationships, for long-term collaborations, it's a huge benefit from industry. And now, in terms of benefits for academia, for us in university, there are huge benefits. There are huge value that industry brings to this discussion. So the maturity, I heard one of our faculty express it very clearly, saying, what's the value that she got when industry were talking about open problems that they face in industry and the open challenges, and how this is informing her research, how this is making her research more relevant. I heard from our students who were talking excitedly how much they love the interactions with industry when they came to their posters, and how excited they were to get feedback from industry about their work and how relevant or how they can tweak and how they can change. And industry had lots of questions at the student poster sessions. So for our students to get that kind of feedback from high-level industry executives who have like a bigger vantage point and who are seeing the bigger picture, it's a huge benefit. They will be much better rounded. They will be much more mature, better thinkers, and better prepared to solve today's society's big challenges in computing. And they couldn't do this without this exposure to industry through these IUCRC discussions.
Thanks a lot, Donny, for sharing all these great benefits, and we are really grateful to have the opportunity to work with you together with great synergies, hopefully between the center here and your center that you are leading. How do you see our capabilities as a DARE center to bring those values to industry and to academia in general?
Yeah, right on. So I'm so excited, as I was talking with you, Maroon, over the years, especially in the last year, as we're talking more about what I was doing with the PPI Center, and I was learning about the discovery visit that you were having with the industry executives. And I was so excited to see how your center is coming, how their center is coming along. And the more that I talk with you, and the more that I understand what their folks in Michigan are bringing together, I see it to be very complementary to what is the core strengths in the PPI Center. So it's complementary both in the outreach to industries. You are bringing the automotive industry, which is really strong in Michigan, right? So Ford and many other companies and suppliers and manufacturers in this space, which is very complementary to our industry members. And also, I see a lot of complementarity they are bringing on the skill set that your faculty have. So I heard so many times when you're talking to me about, the emphasis that you have on energy and how do we compute when we have strict energy resources and energy constraints and compute constraints. And that's one. It's not a blind spot. We are aware of it. Industry told us that we need to work on AI and machine learning in these very energy constrained environments. But it's not a blind spot because we are aware, but it's a gap for us. And I was so excited to hear that you guys are bringing expertise, and you're bringing faculty who are complementing us in those areas and also in the areas of application. So I can see this as we are strengthening each other's skills and the areas in which we have weaknesses. The DARE Center is bringing strengths, and I think together we can go much farther. Like, that's our motto: together we go farther. But the reason why together we go farther is because where we are weak, you are strong, and together we offer a much better package. We offer a much more value to industry than we can do in isolation.
Thanks a lot, Danny, not only for your support to our center and being with us, but also for leading the whole field. I mean, especially on the intersection of AI, software engineering, and others. So thanks a lot, Danny.
Well, it's always a pleasure to talk with you, Mario.
Thanks again for joining us for this session about the DARE visions and goal. So I'll be trying to give you an overview about our vision within the DARE Center in order to serve industry, our students, university, society, and beyond. So actually the DARE Center includes right now over 36 professors and many PhD students and different members who are coming actually from different colleges of the University of Michigan-Dearborn, including the College of Engineering and Computer Science, the Castle College of Business, and College of Education, and so on. So we have different thrusts within the center. So we try to focus on relevant problems for our industry partners, like, for example, how to enable AI in the edge, how to actually learn from partial data, how to clean data, how to deal with ethics related to data and learning from it. And we have different applications related to business analytics, software engineering problems, of course, intelligent transportation, and also smart energy and beyond. So the structure of our center include, of course, a director and also different thrust area within the center, and of course an external advisory board that can actually shape the vision of the center. And we hope that we see some of you actually joining our advisory board pretty soon. So the goal of the center is to actually enable new core and applied AI research. And this is done in general in collaboration with our industry partners. We want to listen to your problem, then come back to our labs, build scientific foundation, then we want to test our prototype. At the beginning, at a small scale, but we wanted to see it at a larger scale in order to serve your company. We also enable collaboration between different faculty and their students who come from multiple disciplines. We believe that the best contribution happen in general when it is done as a team effort, where multiple people from multiple disciplines can sit together and try to work together on solving challenging AI problems that could be from data cleaning to explaining decisions to large-scale applications in many areas. Actually, there are different reasons why you may think that the center could serve your company. First of all, we can offer small case studies for your company that we can address together as a team. We can also provide some customized training, workshops for practitioners in this important field. We can also provide early access to research and also opportunities to do networking even through our virtual event. And also we are having weekly brainstorming meetings, discussions, reading groups that can actually expose your company to the latest advances in the field. So our approach for this is to try, first of all, to connect, understanding your needs, understanding how the center could actually help you and your organization in dealing with different AI challenges. Then we can define together a small case study at the beginning in order to actually show values of this industry university collaboration, how it works in order to solve important problem for you. And then after this proof of concept, we can scale a little bit and we can sustain our collaboration via much more collaborations that go beyond just working on one problem, but actually working on probably an umbrella of problems that could serve your company in different areas. So I hope that you will enjoy our symposium and you enjoy the different speakers, please don't hesitate to contact us if you need any follow-up or any interest in any of the case studies that will be showed during the symposium. And again, we are really glad for the opportunity to serve you in this very important area. It gives me great joy to introduce now our distinguished speaker. Seth Durbarin is a vice president at IBM for IBM Analytics. And also he's the IBM Chief Data Officer, where he's responsible for the transformation of the analytics business operation using data and analytics. Seth has spent his career scaling and combining existing technologies to address previously scalable problems, and previously he held the data science transformation of a Fortune 500 company, as well as the company's agile transformation and their shift to the cloud, and he oversaw effort to leverage the data science transformation to drive new business models, to create new revenue streams along with the optimization of existing processes. He has served as member of the advisory board of the IBM Spark Technology Center, and he's also the founding member of the International Society of Chief Data Officers. He holds a PhD in genetics from Arizona State University. Let's give a thundering round of applause to Seth Durbarin, our distinguished speaker for the first Dearborn AI Research Symposium. Thanks again, Seth, for accepting our invitation to be our first keynote today. So Seth, I mean, you'll be talking really about a very important topic, which is the role of ethics in artificial intelligence. So for the participants, please don't hesitate to ask Seth any questions in the chat box. You'll be there to answer any of your questions right away through the chat as well. And then Seth, after that, he will be actually joining our panel later on Edge AI just after the keynote. Thank you very much. So Seth.
Yeah, thank you. I am really excited to have the opportunity to speak with you today about providing my unbiased perspective on the critical role of managing bias in artificial intelligence. Now, does that sound ridiculous? Because it should, since there is no conversation without bias. As humans, we perceive our environments, our experiences, and that affects our perspective. This lens, this perspective, is bias. Similarly, an AI perceives its environments, its experiences, in the form of the data, which affects its perspective. This perspective the AI has learned from the data influences and creates bias in the resulting AI. We want to know that we can trust data and AI and understand how and why it came to a certain decision. But what does AI look like in action? That predicts credit risk from your credit history and assets based on how people similar to you have behaved in the past. In other words, the algorithm is scoring you based on the behavior of other similar individuals. And algorithms are really, really good at this. In late 2019, Apple and Goldman Sachs released a credit card aptly named the Apple Card. Janet Hill pulled out her iPhone, applied for the Apple Card, and instantaneously an AI algorithm issued her a card. Now, she was given a credit limit that was 10 times lower than her husband. They share all assets and they share all accounts. Her husband, Steve Wozniak, the co-founder of Apple, got 10 times the credit that she did. Now, the algorithm doesn't even use gender as a factor. That they didn't want this bias to exist in the first place. In fact, they made sure gender wasn't even a consideration in the algorithm. But before we go in, how this likely happened, I'm going to use a story to explain some of the different types of biases that exist. Back in late 2017, I brought together a team to help companies climb the ladder to AI. When we set out on this mission, we established a cognitive bias by having a goal to create a team that was as diverse as possible. We created a framing bias by centering the entire hiring process to support our cognitive bias. Next, we did something quite simple. We then worked to minimize the selection bias by using a set of job postings that was designed to be more inclusive. We took this approach as there's a difference in the types of job descriptions that different groups will and will not apply to due to an implicit bias that they have. In addition, these simple adjustments to the job postings, we set a requirement before starting the interview that we needed a pool of qualified candidates that was at least 50% diverse. This decision, consciously establishing a selection bias, proved to be the most important part of bringing together this amazing team. So simple, yet so impactful. And to be clear, there was no requirement on the mix of candidates that we would ultimately hire. In fact, after a very rigorous process, only the most qualified candidates got hired, with no exception. When finished, this team of 100 data scientists was nearly twice as diverse as the industry average, with nearly an equal number of men and women, speaking more than 26 different languages from a wide variety of ethnic, cultural, religious, and geopolitical backgrounds. A confirmation bias supported this process throughout in the form of a set of academic and real-world research that was hand-selected. Now, why is this important when we start to think about the development of AI algorithms? The same types of biases expressed in the story about the data science elite team apply directly to AI. Humans build AI, and we come to the table with a set of biases. Data is used to train or teach the AI, and data has bias based on the historical decisions of humans. These factors impact the level of bias an AI will have. So let's go back to the Apple Cart example. While they explicitly removed gender, there were other factors that were associated with gender that the AI algorithm identified in order to classify individuals based on a perceived risk. These factors of the data, based on historical bias, were not explicitly, are you a man or are you a woman? However, they were still associated or correlated with being a man or being a woman. And that's what led to the unintended bias that occurred. Now, the pandemic we're facing is only increasing the rate and pace of AI adoption. And sometimes AI can seem abstract, but you're already impacted by AI on a daily basis. AI is in every industry, from media and entertainment, in the form of Netflix recommending a movie to you, to the automotive industry, think autonomous cars, and to telecommunications, when networks are trying to automatically allocate and adjust and prioritize resources based on demand. And the response to the pandemic, as we think about forecasting the impact rates of infections have on economies reopening or not. Bias in any of these interactions can have a direct impact on our lives, from the simply annoying when Netflix tells you to watch Bridget Jones and you really just want to watch Fifth Element, all the way to predicting what happens to the availability of critical supplies if the pandemic shuts down an entire economy. As AI becomes more pervasive, we need to understand, mitigate, and remediate bias in AI. The development of an AI algorithm can be thought of as similar to our own human development. We are born mostly without biases. Likewise, algorithms are not inherently biased. Environments introduce bias, both positive and negative, and data is the algorithmic equivalent to an environment. External pressure causes us to adjust our biases just as data changes over time. And as we mature, new environments are introduced, and AI algorithms constantly learn on new data as it's introduced. And algorithms are very, very good at picking up on small details in their environment, the data, and classifying groups or individuals based on the data, which is sometimes biased. Now let's think back to the Apple Card example again. Gender was absolutely not a feature of the algorithm. And if AI has no inherent bias, then where did this bias come from? While data sets are the most obvious source of bias in the AI, bias can also be introduced by teams without proper training. If the teams are not sufficiently diverse, they're more likely to introduce a cognitive bias into the problem, or a framing bias into the experimental design, or a selection bias into the algorithmic design. This is in addition to whatever biases may already exist in the data from the historical actions of humans. Now let's go through another story. Several years ago, a bank started using AI to decide if mortgages should be given to applicants or not. This decision can have serious long-term impact on the lives of families. And for this reason, the bank was very careful to ensure that the algorithms didn't have any gender, racial, religious, or ethnic biases. Yet even when all other features were equal, the algorithm started to deny people of color mortgages at a higher rate. Race, gender, religion, and ethnicity were specifically excluded from the algorithm. So what happened here? Address was collected, and it turns out that in the United States and other parts of the world, people of similar backgrounds tend to live together in communities. And because people of color have historically been denied credit at higher rates and have historically lived in certain zip codes, if you happen to live in one of these zip codes, you are more likely to be denied credit. This example demonstrates a few things. First, two or more pieces of data or features are likely to be very tightly connected or correlated. In this case, race, address, and zip code. And even though race was specifically excluded from the algorithm found the result that the historical bias correlated to race in the form of a separate set of features of the data, address, and zip code. Second, it highlights the effect of biased data and how bias is introduced into the data. Because the model was tainted by historical biases in the data, they were making a bunch of really bad decisions really fast. So what does it look like to truly understand bias? Well, it takes a highly talented and diverse set of teams building the AI algorithms. It's a set of separate algorithms that are used to identify outliers that represent both known and unknown biases. It's framing the projects in a way that is as unbiased as possible. It's being transparent with the algorithms in order to create a trusted foundation for the AI to live on. Now, the process of mitigating and remediating bias can still be challenging. To understand why, let's go back to the mortgage example. The bank took this very seriously, and their intent was absolutely not to be biased against people of color or anyone else for that matter. In fact, the whole point of implementing the AI was to remove the potential, of implicit bias affecting their decisions of the underwriters and the mortgage brokers. Now, it wasn't easy for them to truly understand what happened here. Remember, they went to great lengths to prevent this from happening in the first place. It was such a challenge because their teams had to manually untangle what happened. And this is not an easy process. Now, today, an amazing thing is happening. Technologically, we're at the point where bias mitigation process can be automatic and can be integral to the entire AI development lifecycle. With the right people, the right tools, and the right technology, we're creating the fantastic future of a less biased and more ethical AI, a fully automated end-to-end process that accounts for bias in every step of the way and is overseen by talented and diverse teams. Now, thinking of the new reality we live in today, thanks to the pandemic, entire economies are shutting down. This is resulting in a world that was once physically connected via air travel going completely remote, where millions of people are without work and many others are working remotely. These fundamental changes in the world are exponentially accelerating the rate and pace of the adoption and implementation of AI. Whatever trajectory we were on has been accelerated because we're relying on data and AI more than ever. As we interact with the AI in our daily lives, we need to be cognizant of the biases that can be, and often are, impacting us directly and indirectly. We need to keep in mind that ethical AI is still biased, even if it's consciously biased in a way that is aligned to societal norms. Now, we've all heard about the possible benefits of AI: better customer service, more efficient and resilient supply chains, a faster and smarter drug discovery process, and so on. Many of us look forward to the innovation and impact that AI can offer. Organizations and individuals want to know that they can trust their data and AI and explain how it came to a recommendation. Think about how many more organizations would be ready to use AI if they could rely on a trusted and transparent process. Now, when I think about the task at hand, I know we have a lot of work to do, but I am very hopeful. Humans have created the bias that's out there in the world today. We have a shared responsibility to make sure that AI reflects the best in human thinking and not the worst. Done right, done ethically, AI will help us emerge from the pandemic biased towards a better, more equitable society. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Seth. They're all actually great stories, to share and to learn from you based on your outstanding experience in this field. So while there are already, questions in the chat box from the participants, let me probably ask two questions, probably on the behalf of the participants as well. My first question, it's more probably from education perspective and how we can prepare our students probably to address better this bias, issues when they work as an engineer or data scientist and so on later. Like we all know, for instance, like most of our education programs around AI in university, we focus more on programming languages. We focus more on this kind of knowledge like Python, other programming language. But to deal with bias based on the stories that you just shared, we need actually more interdisciplinary probably knowledge that include study in social business and more interdisciplinary work. So what are your thoughts in that direction, and what advices, recommendation you want to share, especially from education perspective?
Yeah, so I think the point you brought up about an interdisciplinary approach is really important. When we approach these types of problems in a corporate world, it's usually not one person that's solving the problem. It's usually a team of people. And so it's data scientists or engineers with data engineers and people from the business. And as educators and as students, I think probably one of the most important things that can be done today is to solve these problems in groups, while you're going through the academic process. I think oftentimes, a lot of the work that's done at universities and in these programs are people working on their own, and that's not the reality that happens when you go to work in the corporate world. Plus, you're more likely to introduce bias if you operate that way because you're a single person working on your own. Having a team environment, having a diverse team is really what's required to do this. And diversity is not just men and women, black and white. It's diversity of thought, so background, socioeconomical, where you come from, even what language you speak affects how you think. And so I think thinking of diversity more holistically than just skin color or gender is really important when we start looking at how we build teams to tackle problems associated with AI.
Great, thanks a lot, Seth. And the second question is a little bit, I would say, more technical and tools oriented, because IBM with other companies like Amazon's and many others, they're leading, developing these tools that can deal with bias and better data analytics. At the same time, from research perspective and also from practitioners' perspective, do you think that we are still dealing with different tools that are built in isolated way rather than creating probably a whole pipeline that can deal with sanitization, looking to the fairness of the data explainability? Because we always hear from research and practitioners that, okay, there are multiple tools that could be used, but what's your perception of looking to this whole pipeline of making data AI ready?
Yeah, so if you look back to where we were 5-10 years ago with software development, we started this concept of DevOps, right? Which is where you have a completely integrated end-to-end process for software development that includes lifecycle management. We're now at the same place with machine learning or AI, where there's this concept called ML ops, or machine learning ops. And this is looking at the entire end-to-end process, everything from the beginning when you start developing or engineering your features, all the way through to your model building, your hyperparameter optimization, and then monitoring and remediating bias has to be a completely single, integrated process. Now, that's not to say it's all got to be a single tool or set of tooling. At IBM, we have developed an entire tool chain. So obviously, we like to promote that. But, it's really, really important that from concept to implementation is a single process, because machine learning, two reasons actually. One is machine learning creates a self-fulfilling prophecy where as soon as you start applying it, you're changing the data. So over time, the model will stop working, right? So you need to constantly monitor and retrain that model so that it performs as you expected. And secondly, on this concept, in the context of bias is constantly introduced into the data, or you could be eliminating bias as you're making better decisions. And so you need to monitor the models, not just for performance, but for bias. And even as you're eliminating bias, it's important because sometimes to reduce the bias in the outcome of the model, you're making trade-offs on the model. So you're giving up performance in the predictive model to minimize the amount of bias. And so if you're eliminating bias from the data, you're going to want to be able to monitor that over time, so then you can remove the correction that you made to the model to reduce the bias as the bias is removed from the data. Because remember, the model itself, math is not biased. The data is imposing its bias on the math. And so as the data is getting cleaner from a bias perspective, you can adjust your model to perform better because you don't have to account for the bias in the data.
Thanks a lot again, Seth, for the great stories, keynote, and all the great advices in this really very important topic around how to deal with bias in AI. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. I appreciate the opportunity, and it's unfortunate we couldn't all be together for this like we tried to be 6 or so months ago. So I look forward to meeting you all in person at some point in the future.